Justin Tyson. How you doing?
What's up, Scotty? How's it going, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Of course, my pleasure.
Where are you coming to us from right now?
I'm in LA, man. I'm at home in LA.
Oh, you live in LA?
I live in LA, yeah.
Did you lived
Yeah.
in New York for a period though, right?
I lived in New York for a long time, and then I made the migration with everybody else during the pandemic.
Okay, then I'm
Uh,
wearing
so
the absolute wrong outfit for where you are right now.
Man, listen, I'm from Indiana, man, so it don't make no difference to me.
Okay, good. See,
I'm a real Hoosier.
See, I had a conundrum, which was I'm growing my hair out, and I'm at that phase where no matter what I do, I look god awful at every possible angle. And I was like, let me put on a hat, but
Man.
I feel like it's unprofessional for the host of a show to wear a hat. So I was like, let me
Nah,
go.
man, you look great, man.
Okay, I appreciate it because I was like, let me go
Yeah,
full
yeah.
into this New York, and I should have had a Dodgers, but God forbid I put a Dodgers jersey on.
It's
No.
all good. Yeah, your swag is impeccable, man.
I appreciate it. So lived in New York, live in LA now, but you're
Yeah.
originally from Grand Rapids, right?
Well, I was born in Grand Rapids. And my family, we lived there till I was 5 or 6, and then we moved to Indianapolis, and that's where I grew up.
Do you have much of a memory of those 6 years in Michigan or no?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a lot of very rich memories. I mean, for a 5-year-old anyway, but a very rich musical environment. My father was a musician, a great organist, gospel organist, songwriter. You know, so we were up there at a church in Grand Rapids, and then my family decided to move back to Indianapolis, and that's where I claim I'm from.
Yeah. So what's your family situation? You have brothers and sisters? How was that?
I have 2 sisters and a brother. They're all kind of musically inclined, but I'm the only one that does music professionally out of all of us.
Is your mother a musician?
No, she's a nurse, which is a but yeah, I grew up. My father's side of the family, they're all musicians. But my dad was in his day, he was a great gospel organist of his time. So I grew up kind of with that uh, as a young person.
Your dad was smart because he wanted to get married to someone who doesn't always just talk about music. Because I went to music school, and so every couple there, they're all like all they
Yeah.
do all day. I'm like, what do you guys do? You just talk about like Duke Ellington? Like I don't get. So your dad made a smart move there. Talk to someone who had some separate interests.
Oh yeah, she has great sense too. So
Was your father? He's a professional musician.
yeah, yeah. So his name was Craig Tyson. He was like I said, a gospel organist. He traveled the world. He was Bishop T.D. Jakes' traveling organist for, I don't know, probably 10 years
Oh
in
wow.
the late 80s and 90s. And yeah, he was mainly gospel, mainly in the church. Yeah, mainly gospel records. But yeah, he was a virtuoso of sorts on the organ.
So then what? I mean, this might be obvious. I'm gonna guess your father, but when did you get into music, and was that directly because of him?
Yeah, well, I mean, since I started playing when I was a little kid, so just being around it, and I think I just gravitated toward it immediately. And yeah, I don't know exactly why I chose the drums, but yeah, I did. And I mean, it's one of those things where I don't really remember not doing it. So
Mhm.
it's kind of a thing. I never really think about it like a starting point or a genesis. It's just kind of always been that.
Was there
And
like a
yeah,
was there a specific like church drummer in your family's church that
yes.
maybe you saw that's what got you going?
Oh yeah. So there were 2 drummers in Grand Rapids that that I saw, and I was like, I mean, I'm talking about like 2, 3 years old. I was like, oh, I want to do that. The one of them was the late great Jimmy Abney,
Yeah.
who unfortunately passed away some years ago. But he was like, and this is, we're talking about 90, 91, 92. So Jimmy was like 16, 17, but he was already the DeBarges grew up in my at the church that I went to in Grand Rapids too, Bethel Pentecostal Church in Grand Rapids. And Jimmy had moved to LA and was playing with L. He was like 16, 17, playing with El DeBarge and like producing and doing all this stuff. So he would come back in town from time to time, and I would see him. And then there's another great drummer, Dorico Watson, who's from Muskegon, who played with the great Victor Wooten for a long time. And anyway, yeah, when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, he would come to Grand Rapids, and like spend the night at our house, and we would watch drum videos and look at the magazines, and he kind of like, he saw that I had, I was relatively gifted and that I, more importantly, that I had like a very serious passion for it at an early age. So he
That's
kind of like, along with my father, in those early periods, he was one of those ones that kind of like helped prop me, help. They'd be like, yeah, you can do this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so yeah, those two.
That's like an unrealistically stacked duo of musicians
Oh
for
no,
one
my
church.
yeah, no, yeah, that church is crazy. Marvin Sapp came out of that church. A lot of really great. Yeah, Grand Rapids is like one of those weird towns that kind of bred a lot of really great talent, especially in that church, um, and especially back then. But yeah, it was very rich, and I was very very inspired and surrounded by it at a very early age.
So I'm gonna assume that when you moved to Indianapolis, you kept close in touch with those guys.
No,
No.
I mean they did. My parents did, but I was a little kid. You know what I mean? Like and I'm still. I mean, to a degree, I'm still in touch with Dorico to this day. That's my bro still. But when we moved to Indianapolis, I kind of was like fully immersed in, I was whatever was going on in Indianapolis. That's what was happening with me, and all the local musicians in Indy were kind of that's what I was looking to. And I don't even think I went back to Grand Rapids
Mhm.
for a long, long time after we moved. So
What was that first when you first got to Indianapolis? Obviously, you're only 6 years old, so there's not a whole lot of
yeah.
planning for this. But what immediately musically, what were you up to? Just right back in the church? Was there other stuff going on?
Oh yeah, no, 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 definitely. Church was the 99.9% of what I was involved with up until I left and went to school,
Hmm.
went to college. But yeah, it was and my family is very was very deep in the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World, which is a Pentecostal organization.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it was my grandfather was like a presiding bishop in the PAW, and so yeah, the church I was once again just fully immersed, not only in the church world, but also in my family's dynamic and my family's relationship to our organization and to our denomination,
Yeah.
and to the music. And yeah, I was with my dad all the time, so it was just kind of like I was just tagging along and just kind of sitting around, waiting to see if somebody was going to let me play. That was that was really what it was.
So when you were younger, were you going in and just kind of sitting in at certain places, or were you at any
They
point a
would
full
let me.
time
They would
goer?
let me. Nah, they would let me play sometimes. You know what I mean? But it was it was a very high level situation, so
Yeah.
it wasn't. I wasn't. They weren't about to let like a little kid just play a whole service. And I didn't really get to that point where I was like the main drummer until I was like a teenager. So,
Okay.
but
Now
I
that's
was. But yeah, yeah.
no, no, no. Keep going. Keep going.
No, it was cool because I was more interested in watching anyways. I wanted to play, but I was just so fascinated and so awestruck by the people that I was surrounded by that it really, I wanted to play, but I was content and I was satisfied with just being around it.
Hmm. And I gotta ask because I didn't grow up in a gospel church, but I'm a big fan of gospel music. I'm like a huge Fred Hammond fan, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
so I love the music, but I don't really have much of a background understanding the technical aspect of getting up in a church and playing it. And from everything I hear, it's very much like a trial by fire kind of situation because people are like calling stuff all the time. What is an experience like that? How difficult is it playing in a gospel church?
Um, it's difficult until it becomes second nature. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like anything else. Once you're learning, there's a steep learning curve, but once you get familiar with the ins and outs of it, it's like speaking a language. It's like any language. You know what I mean? Like you might learn how to speak Spanish. But if you go to like the Dominican Republic, you're not gonna understand anything they're saying probably until you like immerse yourself in the lingo and in the little nuances of the language and the unspoken and the body language and all that stuff. It's kind of the same thing. So and I mean every church is a little bit different, but most churches are relatively the same
Hmm.
in that yeah, the structure, at least back then anyway, I haven't played in church in a long time, but the structure of the services are relatively the same. You have, I mean, like 80% of the service is music. So, you're playing music at the very beginning, in the middle, during the sermon, at the end of the sermon, at the end of the service, as people are walking out. You know what I mean? So once I was like 11 or 12, I started to kind of figure out how do things flow, and then just by being there, I don't know. It's hard to explain because I never really thought about it as a process. You know what I mean? Just because I was in it so much, but yeah, it's one of those things where you just kind of got to be there. You know what I mean?
And are they usually calling specific tunes, or are you just following along to what they're doing?
Sometimes, but you know, my grandfather was one of those pastors that he would break out with a song that nobody's ever heard before. One of those, and you gotta, and that, you know, I wish I would have played organ in services because those guys really have to know, you know, they're kind of their dexterity in terms of how they adapt to a service is very high,
Hmm.
and their Rolodex in terms of the songs that they know is very high too, especially if you grow up in like a traditional Pentecostal church where you never know when a mother is going to get up from the back of the church and sing a song that nobody sang in 40 years. You know what I mean? So
So you got to be on your toes
yeah,
24/7.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And you guys,
I had it easy. I just had to know like what meter the song was in, and then just play the beat.
yeah,
But
I've never understood that because one of my good friends here, his name's Martin. He's a piano player, and like and I'm a drummer. But when I play drums, I'm like, yeah, obviously there's a lot of stress to it, and you're basically the backbone of the band, but it's not. It seems to me to be a completely different world to just someone starts singing, and my great friends from college can do this, and they just start with the keys. They're just playing it like it's second, and they're right with it. And I'm like, I understand that from a drumming perspective, but it seems it literally is like a second language to me. So obviously, it's hard for anyone in the band, but for a keys player, anything where multiple, I can't even imagine. It's insane.
yeah, yeah, it's deep. It's deep for sure.
It's incredible. Now, were you speaking through like, did you have like SM, 58s with
Nah,
you in
nah,
headphones?
nah. We didn't have nothing nothing back then. No, there was no like it wasn't until I was like 17 or 18 that people were actually starting to like use tracks.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
didn't have talk back. We didn't have none of that. It was everything was analog.
Yeah.
You gotta watch and pay attention and I don't know,
Have you
use your
ever seen
intuition.
have you ever seen Stevie Wonder live?
I have.
He's incredible, but I just went to go see him. I saw him once when I was, geez, 9, and then he just did a tour in like I think it was like September, October, where he did
Mm,
like 6 shows this year. I don't know if you heard about that,
mm,
but
mm.
I I know I was watching him and I noticed he is making up so much of the show. And if you pay
Oh yeah,
attention, his band, they have like 58s and the drummers got like full like drummers, like I think like Vic Firth headphones or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm noticing like half of the show, Stevie will just start playing something, and then all of a sudden I see the drummer
Mhm.
just like come on, he starts like screaming in the mic
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they're all
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and they're like
yeah, yeah,
looking around, and I love that because it makes his shows so
yeah,
energetic, and his guys catch it like that. It's
yeah, man.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm pretty sure it's like a similar thought process where it's like, depending on the energy and the atmosphere in the room, he'll maybe throw an audible or something like that. But it's the same with jazz. It's the same stuff that we do with Rob with that I do with Robert Glasper. They're similar in all the kind of in the musical arenas. There's an element of adaptation or adapting to the circumstances of the room,
Yeah. Now, outside of
which
drums, when you were young, was there anything that you thought you might get into? Not, I mean, not even just outside of drums, outside of music in general. Were there any interests of yours that you
yeah.
were considered doing professionally, or maybe you're going to go to college for?
I thought I was gonna I thought I was gonna play basketball, even though I wasn't even that good. I didn't really know until I was like a junior or senior in high school. I don't know, it just didn't dawn on me that I could actually have a career in music. Like I played music, that's what I did. It was like 100% a part of my life. But I didn't know, like up until my father actually recommended that I go to Berkeley. uh, I was like, what am I going to do after I graduate? I have no idea. I didn't know that people made money from doing it. It just didn't occur to me that that was a thing. I don't even know why. I guess I didn't care.
So
But
right up until that point where he recommended Berkeley, you were still like full on. I'm going to be playing
yeah,
basketball.
no, I was like, I'm about to go to like computer school or something. And actually, I was like, I don't know. I was gonna apply to Full Sail and like be a music engineer or something. I was like, oh yeah, maybe that's something I could do with music.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, nah, he was like, what you want to do, you should go to Berkeley. And I was like, all right. and that was it.
You know what? Isn't it amazing how a simple recommendation from a parent can absolutely the butterfly effect is absolutely ridiculous sometimes.
Dude, man, can you imagine?
I was
Shout
just
out to Full Sail, but yeah, it would have been very different.
that's true. Well, you know what? There's benefits to anything. The butterfly effect in the opposite direction. Hey, you could be
Yeah, I might have,
Mark
yeah, it might have
Zuckerberg
been
right
great
now.
too. Sure, sure.
But
Indeed.
I was I talking about? We were talking about college and all that. I was just watching. I've been watching clips of an old drummer. You know of a drummer named Dom Famulero?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was
Mm-hmm.
a teacher of mine, and I was talking about that butterfly effect. I've been
Mm-hmm.
watching all these clips of his, and I was just thinking, like, man, the the amount of people that come from just simple parts of how positive he was, and he passed away a couple years ago.
Right, yeah, I remember, yeah.
But it amazes me sometimes how little things that he did, little pieces of advice that he gave me and other people, how the absolute like it starts like this, and then the cone of impact from that is absolutely ridiculous. And that same thing can happen just from your father
100%,
saying go
yeah.
to Berkeley.
Yeah, all you have to do is for a lot of people is point them in the right direction,
Amazing.
and the rest is history.
So then, wait, were you
Uh,
playing? Did you play ball at all once you got to college? You find any leagues or
Dude,
anything?
heck no. I didn't even play like I never was on a basketball team or anything. I don't know why I thought I was going to play basketball.
You were
I
doing
just
like
that's all.
scrimmage.
Yeah, I was just played at the park and like at the gym. I never played on a school team. I never played in a league. I never did any of that.
So then,
But
well, when you,
yeah,
sorry, keep going, keep going.
no, no, no. I was just delusional, I guess.
You know
That's
what?
very true.
That kind of ties into the whole. I mean, musicians in general, I think you have to be somewhat delusional. I think anyone who wants to go into sports, entertainment, any kind of, big payoff, but very large risk kind of an industry, you have to be a little bit delusional. It
Yeah,
doesn't work
yeah.
if you're not.
100%. Yeah. I guess my delusion was just it needed to be redirected into a thing that I was actually good at.
Hmm.
Because your work ethic can make up or it can turn your delusions into something into like a reality
Yeah,
too, you know what I mean? Which I
absolutely.
wouldn't have been able to do that with the basketball. I'm not even tall enough, bro. Like I don't know what I
How
was
tall are
thinking.
you?
I'm 5'10", which
Okay,
is
we're
not
like the exact same height.
yeah, which is
Okay,
not tall enough. Not with my skill level
you're like Nate
anyway.
Robinson, right?
No,
No,
yeah,
Nate
yeah,
Robin.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
Nate's like five.
He's like 5'9" or something like that.
Yeah, he's right about there. He might
But
even be like
he's a real hooper though, and I was just having fun.
you didn't have like ridiculous hops like Nate, where he's like
I had
jumping over
zero
people.
hops. I was just real fast, and I talked a lot. I talked a lot of smack. That was I was all right, but
Yeah, when I play
no,
with my
no.
friends, I lose, but I talk like I'm LeBron James.
Oh, dude, I'm the best trash talker you ever met. I'm really like that. But my dad actually played. He played ball. He played college ball too. Like he was an actual hooper too. Like this dude was a unicorn. So I'm like,
Amazing.
I don't know. But he was also like 6'3". So
Well,
that was,
there's a benefit for that. That's like a solid NBA point guard.
you know what I mean? A
Yeah,
shooter at
that's
least.
Rajon. No, that's not Rajon Rondo. He's six
That's
one.
Steph Curry.
Yeah, Curry. So wait, then you go to Berkeley. Right when
Hmm.
you get there, uh, are you immediately like, this is exactly it. I understand it now. I get that this can be a career, or were you still kind of skeptical about that idea even going into college?
I don't know. It's hard for me to kind of pinpoint what my awareness of it was. I uh Yeah, I don't know. I found some friends, some like-minded friends, and then yeah, I just kind of I didn't really think about a career still, and even though I knew that I could have one because by that time, like I took a year off after high school, and I was like playing in churches and getting paid, and I was starting to finally realize like, oh, okay, I could actually make some money and do this for real. But then when I got to school, I just kind of my main goal was to get better. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's the only thing I really cared about.
Who were you
And
studying with at Berkeley?
um, I studied with Francisco Mela. I studied with the late great Kim Plainfield.
Yeah.
I studied with Kim Denard. I
Hmm.
studied with the late great Ralph Peterson.
Yeah.
Um, I think that was it. But I took Kim Plainfield for like 3 or 4 semesters. He was my favorite instructor. And I think I think I studied with Mela for like two semesters, 2 or 3 semesters too. But yeah, those two guys I think were the ones that I learned the most from. there.
Were you going in with specific ideas of like, I want to get better at this, or were they really guiding you in that sense?
No, yeah, they would listen to me play and then kind of see my weaknesses and my strong points and give me advice or give me listening, homework and like Kim Plainfield introduced me to Vinny. Like I didn't even know who Vinny Colaiuta was before
That,
I got to
oh
Berkeley,
my God. Vinny
and that
is,
was like,
I
that
love
was
Vinny.
yeah.
Vinny is, sorry, I get a little excited when I
No,
hear
no, yeah, yeah.
it.
Rightfully so. I'm sorry for sweating, by the way, man. I have like the craziest like cold right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. We
No,
could,
no, no, it's all good. No,
uh,
no, no, yeah.
it's okay.
It's,
We're having a
I
like
can
a
feel it.
hot streak in the city, but
Oh,
you
where?
know, how long did you live in New York?
11 years.
Okay, so you know the
Yeah.
vibes. It gets hot.
Mm-hmm.
All
Mm-hmm.
of those pre-war heaters don't know to turn off
Oh yeah,
because no
it's a
one's come
million
in.
degrees.
So my heater is on full blast. I can't turn it off. I can't have my AC on, and I have all these lights on. So
Oh
basically,
man.
we're in the same. I'm not sick, but
Right.
I'm just as sweaty.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually glad I'm sweating because I'm getting it. I'm, letting it all out finally.
Yeah, and I think I'm even shinier right now, and I actually have powder on my face. So
Oh, nice.
I'm going
It's
through
all
everything.
good. We working it out,
Exactly,
man.
we're right on the same playing field.
Yeah.
Vinny, I always get distracted when I hear Vinny's name.
Yeah, man.
Have you seen him play the video of him at the Baked Potato?
Oh yeah, of course. I've seen like
Oh,
every Vinny Colaiuta video there probably is.
when I watch there's a few drummers like that who I get every time I hear him, like Gad, Vinny, Larnell Lewis, um, like guys of that caliber. I watch sometimes. I'm like, let me go back and watch this video. Let me see if I still like it as much as I did in college. And I
Oh yeah,
rewatch
yeah.
it. It's like I'm like watching basketball. I'm standing up and I'm like jumping. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm freaking
yeah.
out.
Dude, that stuff is timeless, man. Like, yeah, that baked potato video is crazy. Like the Vinny live, Chick Corea live at Tokyo Blue Note,
Oh,
bro. That
yes.
like that to me is for me is when I hear Vinny on that record, that's the record that blows my mind the most. Like
Hmm.
this dude was like, I don't know, he was on one that night, bro. Like all of them were, but especially Vinny that night, bro. I don't know what it was, but he was just, I don't know. He had one of those nights,
He's
and he
ridiculous.
was, yeah, he wasn't. He took no prisoners that night. It was. I actually just listened to that record again the other day, and I was just flabbergasted all over again.
My favorite Vinny video, which now that I say it, if it's not Vinny, like if I'm getting these conflated, which I tend to do that, the camera comes on and I
Uh-uh.
like mix everything together.
Uh-uh.
If I remember correctly, there's a video of Vinny, Weckl, and Gad all trading down a line. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, that's right.
yeah, in that video, oh, because it's just like it's basically it shows peak of drumming in three different ways.
Yeah,
That
yeah, they
video
were
gets me
all
every
dealing.
time.
Yeah, I love that whole. I don't know if you've seen the whole It was a Buddy Rich memorial concert.
Yeah, where Neil
Uh,
Peart played swing.
yeah, and yeah, Dennis is on there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful concert.
My father, when I was young, huge Dennis Chambers fan. We had like this Dennis Chambers.
Yeah.
He had a couple. I don't know if Hudson Music put them out, but you know those like old drumming videos. We had them all on
Uh-huh.
DVD because my teacher Dom. He used to get us hip to all this stuff, and my father used to say Dennis is like the only drummer who, when he would really go fast, he's really going for it. You literally couldn't see his hands, and it that
Oh yeah.
on camera you actually sometimes can't even see his hands. He's that ridiculous.
Yeah, Dennis is another one of my like top drum heroes for sure.
Oh, he's an absolutely amazing. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm getting us so off track here.
No, 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 it's all good, bro. This is a conversation.
Um, so going back to Berkeley, get to college, studying with all these amazing
Hmm.
people. At what point did you start really getting into the gigging scene? Was it right off the bat?
No, nah, man. Like I'm a late bloomer when it comes to certain things, and I was doing little stuff here and there, playing local gigs, and then I think what really kind of sparked it and what kind of developed my like kind of like informed my trajectory anyway was I was playing. There's a club in Boston called Wally's Jazz Club,
Hmm.
and I was playing there with some friends of mine on Wednesday nights, and I was starting to kind of work out. We were all working it out, working out the stuff that we were listening to I was able to work out the stuff that I was practicing, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Which is not, a very stark difference from playing in church, especially back then. Because now there's a lot more freedom in gospel music in terms of like what, expressing virtuosity. You weren't really allowed to do all that stuff back then. And
You'd be a
so
little more controlled.
yeah, you will get tapped, and bro, get up. You're doing too much. But at Wally's, nobody told me what to play, what not to play, how loud or soft or nothing. I was able to really, really figure it out. So that's when I started to kind of figure out what kind of music I wanted to play, at least for that time, And then I started playing with there's a great guitarist from Boston. His name is Bruce Bartlett. I started playing with Bruce, and I was doing those gigs, and that really helped me a lot. And then yeah, I wasn't really doing a whole lot of gigging, man. Like I was playing at Wally's, I was playing with Bruce, and I was practicing, man. Like that's really what I was doing. Was because I knew, because I ended up moving to New York. I dropped out, moved to New York, and somehow I intuitively knew that I was going to need like a stockpile of resources from the practice space to
Hmm.
to to get me through the first 5 or 6 years
How many
when
years
I
into
wasn't able
college
to.
did you drop out and then move to New York? How far in were you?
Three.
Okay. So
I was there for 3 years.
where'd you move to in New York right when you got here?
Well, I I got kicked. We got evicted out of our house in Boston, and then my friend was already living in New York, and I was like, bro, you got to come get me. So he drove to Boston and came and got me, and I like crashed on his couch for like 6 months until I found an apartment.
If any of my
And then,
friends wanted me to drive like 4 hour, 5 hours to pick them
dude,
up, I don't think I'm enough of a friend to
dude,
do that.
dog, my bro, shout out to DJ Ginyard, great bass player, composer, everything. We were roommates. We played at Wally together. That's my bro. I was like, dog, you got to come get me. And he drove to Boston and came and got me. And I lived with them. It was a huge house with it was like 9 people in this house in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And dude, it was so many people. Louis Cato,
You live in
uh,
Cato?
yeah, the late great James Casey, RP, my
Yeah.
friend DJ Ginyard, Corey Bernhardt. It was a gang of us in this house.
Dude, I love Cato.
Yeah, yeah.
I've only met him a couple times, but I used to work um I was graduating college right when the pandemic was happening. My last year of
Mm,
college was 2020, I think. Yeah, I graduated early 2021. So I graduate, there's no gigs, obviously, none of the venues
yeah,
are
yeah,
open,
yeah.
and it's not like I was gigging much in college anyway. So
Uh,
I was like, "Ah, shit, I gotta figure out, I gotta get a job." So I was like, let me work in entertainment, and I got an internship at CBS, the television company, which
uh,
Colbert is on, and I shadowed back at the time. That was John Batiste was still the MD of Colbert,
right.
but I got to hang with the band a little bit and meet those guys. Man, they're the best. And Cato was the nicest guy. I love him. I only met him a couple times, but he was like the
Yeah,
nicest man.
man. He's one of a kind dude, man. He plays like 40 instruments. He was doing all that stuff back then.
Ridiculous,
And I'm super happy for him, man. They're doing a really great job on that show.
killing it.
But yeah, I lived with them for like 6 months in Bushwick, and then I moved to Harlem, and that's where I lived for the rest of my time in New York.
And professionally, once you get to Harlem, actually no, even when you're in Bushwick, what was going on as a trying to work as a drummer in the city?
Same thing, just getting gigs, trying to get gigs, man, making it, trying to going out every night. Like I was one of those guys, man. Like I put the pedal to the metal, man. Like as soon as I got to New York, I was out every night at a jam session, at a show, at a something. You know what I mean? Like just trying to like really do it, man. I don't know. I just kind of put my head down and yeah, it's just try to activate a certain level of seriousness because I know and I've seen it so many times, and I'm sure you have too. Like people move to New York and they kind of play around with it, and the city will spit you out, man. Like you'll go right back where you came
Oh,
from.
absolutely.
And yeah, I wasn't gonna let that happen. So whatever it took, it took me a long time before I even got to the point where I was making, any type of money. But I didn't care, man. It was just like, it was the grind, bro. Like that's what I was there for. I was there to be broke. I was there to hustle. I was there to like party with my friends and like develop relationships and like get
Yeah.
better, man. Like that's what I cared about. I wanted to do the poor New York musician grind it. I did it all like 100%. So that's what I was doing.
Were you working a day job at that time, or are you living all off
Nah,
music?
yeah, yeah. Doing 5, 6 gigs a week. with just random gigs, you know.
That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. Not
And
at first, but eventually, you know, I started getting some gigs. But
so then, what was your
yeah, I was,
first like real kind of big break playing with someone consistently? We're like, oh, now I'm actually getting a little money and I'm a little more comfortable with
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
doing.
It probably was Now versus Now,
Yeah.
with Jason Linder and Paniotis Andreu. This was like 2014. And yeah, so for those first 4 years, I was just grinding it out, playing gigs, and nothing really consistent. I wasn't in a band. I wasn't really, you know, going on to. Actually, no, I will say this. I was playing with a band called Cubic Zirconia,
Okay.
and we were that was a fun band for like a couple years. That was very punk, like electronic punk band. But I wasn't really making any money with that band. No, no, it was just fun, and you know, it was a world. That was a whole thing. But I think the first time that I like started to feel like, okay, now I'm starting to, I can make some money. This is like a consistent thing, was with Now versus Now
And then
in 2014.
did you get what year did you get with Glasper?
Especially in 2017.
Okay, and then how long were you with that first band, Now versus Now?
I'm still with them now. So we actually have a new record coming out this year.
Oh,
So
really?
that's what, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So that's been 11 years. Yeah. So it's 2014. I started playing with Now versus Now. And then 2015, I started playing with Esperanza Spalding. And then 2017, I joined Rob's band. And then, yeah, that was like, I was doing all that kind of at the same time around that time.
that's an amazing ramp up from 2014 to 2017 because you got all
Dude, it
those
was it was crazy. And
crazy.
then 2019, I started playing with Herbie.
Yeah,
And then I was doing all that stuff at the same time, and like, you know, yeah, it was like all that hard work and grinding, hustling stuff, whatever paid off.
I mean Herbie's like one of those guys where it's like that's beyond the ceiling, to play with someone like Herbie. That's ridiculous. That's
Yeah, yeah.
he's probably the greatest ever.
He is the greatest.
you
That's a
know.
fact.
So how did you get? So then how did you get with Glasper? And then was Glasper? Did he introduce you
Yes.
to
So
Herbie?
I met Rob in like 2010 at a jam session that my friend, the late great Megan Stabile,
Hmm.
she used to throw these jam sessions in Harlem that later they started having. She used to have at Zinc Bar, but it was at this place called Creole. This was 2010 or 2000, yeah, 2010. And I met him there, and he heard me play. We exchanged info, and he started calling me. He would call me for little stuff here and there over the years. But then in 2017, the drum chair opened up in the experiment, and I got the call and they asked me if I wanted to do it, and that was that. And then uh, I think I met Herbie through Terrace Martin.
Yeah.
Terrace actually is a funny story. Like 20 2019, right before the pandemic, I was coming out here just to hang out with Terrace for like a couple weeks. And when I landed, I hit him like, "Yo, I landed." And he was like, "Oh yeah, come to this address." I was like, "All right, cool." I'm thinking I'm going to the studio, but I'm driving up all these hills, and I'm seeing these houses. I'm like, where am I going? I pull up to this house. I'm like, "Oh, okay, we must be at his house." Cool. So he comes out like this side, like alleyway on the side of the house. He was like, "Yeah, come on, come on, bro, we back here." So I'm like, "All right, cool. This is kind of crazy." And we go down the steps into the studio, and it's Herbie, and he invited me to Herbie's Hancock's house. That's how I met him. I had no idea that's where I was going.
You just go down
And
into a basement in Herbie
yeah,
Hancock's house.
and Herbie is there, like he had like got a new software or something, and he was just like clicking all the buttons in the like just seeing what everything was like. I was like, oh wow, this dude is really about that life for real. Like he sat there for I'm not exaggerating, for like probably 2 hours and clicked every single thing.
That's
And so I don't even know
dedication.
what it was. Yeah, he loves it for real. So yeah, that's how I met, and then met him, and then somehow or another they asked me to play with Herbie maybe like a year later.
Were you in contact with him a lot in that year from when you met him to when you started playing with him, or was it kind of like dead and
Mm.
then get called up?
Yeah, yeah, it was. I saw him a few more times. Like I played in a band called R plus R equals now with Robert Glasper and Christian Scott and Derek Haas and
Yeah, yeah.
Taylor and Terrence Martin. Anyway, we played the Hollywood Bowl opening for Herbie, and Herbie sat in with us on one of the tunes called Wrestling Warrior. And I think maybe shortly after that, I got the call to do the tour, which was like, yeah, It was 2019, fall 2019.
What's a crazier experience? Randomly going into a place and Herbie's there, or getting called to be his drummer?
Dude, I don't know the shock. I mean, they both were shocking because I remember when I got the when I found out that I got the gig too. I was I was in like Sweden or something like that with Keon Harold, and we were like on the way to the hotel, and I was like, and to get the confirmation was crazy. They both were equally as crazy. But I think the first time when I saw them, I was just so like I was so confused that it didn't really register to me for a minute. But they were both really cool.
It's like it's
Shout
like
out to my homie.
it's like when people say, I forgot who I, you hear those interviews of people saying like Michael Jackson called them for something, and you see that number and you're like, oh, L.A., and then it's MJ on the phone being like, hey,
Yeah,
do you want
yeah,
to play
yeah,
guitar with me? Like
yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing. That's got. I mean, that has got to be
It is
like that.
crazy. And this one, I too because I was waiting on the call too because I think they had hinted at it and I was just waiting on confirmation. I didn't know if it was going to happen or not. So I for like a month or so, I was kind of waiting to hear. So that anticipation built up, and when I finally got the email or text or whatever it was just like, oh shit, this is crazy.
Was there
I
any
think
type
that
of, obviously besides him hearing you play, was there any type of audition process? They just, or how did that
nah,
go?
nah, nope. I think he heard me play, and we played together because when he sat in with us, and I think maybe I don't know, and then the good words of my friends maybe convinced him too. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, it was I didn't audition or anything. It just called me and asked me.
That's an amazing moment.
Yeah, it was cool.
Incredible. Okay, now
Yeah,
jumping ahead a little bit because I gotta let you go in a couple minutes, but we gotta talk
yeah,
about the new record.
for sure.
Just came. I mean, jumping up to almost as close to exactly this moment as possible. Record came out
Right,
yesterday.
right.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you,
How
man.
long have you been working on that? When did that start?
I started writing these songs in 2020 when I first moved here in this room. I wrote everything in here.
And so, did you write
Uh,
it? Were you going through and writing everything before any of the recording process happened? Or are you recording and writing, piecing things together as you're doing it?
Nope, it was all the same process. The only thing I did separately was the drums,
Hmm.
which I didn't went in the studio and did those. But everything, all the, that's me. I'm playing everything. I wrote everything. And I did that all here in my little humble abode.
I'm interested in the naming scheme of the record
Oh yeah.
because I look, it might be much more obvious than I am. Sometimes I don't pick up on this,
No,
but
it's
can you
not.
explain to me the naming scheme for this?
Yeah,
Door, place, door, that kind of thing.
yeah. So the idea of the record basically is the structure of the record and the theme of the record was heavily about influenced by my kind of fascination during that time with the online liminal space world, like liminal space images and like the
Yeah,
back rooms and all that stuff. And I was like so fascinated by this stuff and so intrigued by the world of kind of the strange weirdness and like that was like that attended this world on the internet and how people were like talking about the strange feelings that they felt. And I kind of got interested in the kind of the phenomenology of space and like what does space do? What does place do? What does like the idea of place? How does it inform our world? How does it inform our identities? How does it inform our cultures? How does it help to shape our identities and our imaginations, whatever? And so I kind of, you know, I tried to incorporate uh, a little bit of that fascination, a bit of my, a little bit of my research in the idea of place and the structure of the record and the naming of the songs. And so, yeah, so the doors are like kind of thresholds that lead into places that whatever they might be, you know what I mean? Like these are places that are familiar to me. But I think we all pass through things to get to places that uh, that shape our worlds and shape our lives and,
yeah.
tell us how to feel, tell us how to think, and sometimes we take them for granted, you know what I mean? Like how important they are and what they actually do. So I kind of wanted to like throw paint at the wall and just illuminate it and
Now,
see what I could find there.
besides spiritually with that liminal space kind of inspiration, were there any direct musical inspirations that you were drawing from for this record?
Oh, dude, too many to name. Like I can name a million things. Like there was some like, and just like we listen to music, man. Like, and I feel like this record, I was taking all the little things that I like and all the stuff that I listen to, and I just made a record out of it. You know what I mean? And then too, like it's very, very heavily influenced by the sound that I grew up with. the sound that my father and my uncle, who's also a great organist, the sound that they kind of fostered and kind of yeah, the sound that they fostered and kind of trademarked to a certain degree.
Hmm.
It's very indicative of where I grew up in my family, my church, or whatever. So all, the harmony and all this stuff that it was very influenced by that, and but I mean everything from Radiohead to I don't know the 1975 to D'Angelo to all that stuff is in there.
That's an amazing mix of genres. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's so sick.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
Justin, the new record is awesome. The Paper Doors,
Appreciate
everyone
it.
should go listen to it. I
Indeed.
gotta let you go. Thank
For
you so
sure.
much for joining me. I appreciate it
Thank you,
so
man.
much.
For sure, man. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, go drink some Gatorade and take some NyQuil.
I'm gonna do that, man. It's up.
Okay, I'll see it. Thank
All
you to
right,
everyone who watched. I'll see you guys later.
man.